Consoles should be about the joypad and the game, but there are some times when you might want to get an add-on. While there are some great accessories, there are some which took things too far. Not only that, but there are some that didn't quite go far enough, and we're going to tell you about some of them. Before we begin, subscribe to The Gamer and ring that bell to join our notification squad so you never miss a video. Without further ado, here are some console accessories that went too far and some that didn't go far enough. DS stand. Back in the days when smartphones, which weren't smart at all by today's standards, when they came with buttons, the idea of controlling a screen using your fingers sounded wrong. How would you get your information across? How would you keep things clean? Wouldn't it just be flat out unhygienic? People shied away from it like they did with Fire and the Wheel and other great ideas before them. This all changed when some genius came up with the idea of using a stylus to write on screens. Now you could give an approximation of your handwriting, type an email, and generally do stuff on a touchscreen without having to worry about getting things dirty or pressing the wrong bit. Nintendo, never a company to ignore the latest developments, well, unless it was CD-ROMs in the 90s, they took notice, and so in 2004, the Nintendo DS was launched, complete with a stylus. There was one small problem, though. While the stylus was cool and groundbreaking, it wasn't exactly easy to use. You had to hold the DS in a certain way, which made playing stylus-heavy games difficult. When Kid Icarus Uprising came out, someone had a bright idea. They would build a stand. Unfortunately, it was so cheap, lightweight, and generally horrible. People didn't buy it because they'd rather fiddle about holding the console and stylus than have to get this. Switch holder. When the Nintendo Switch came out, it seemed like the company had squared the circle when it came to a particular gaming conundrum. For years, people had wondered how you could create a console which was of the highest quality when it came to graphics, sound, and memory, but also had that pick-up-and-play portability factor. Yes, the Switch was the console you could plug into your television, like a traditional one, but also take with you wherever you went. This, as well as the usual quality people had come to expect from Nintendo, helped it to sell by the bucket load. People love to play it at home, on their way to work, or wherever. The keyword there is wherever. It's portable. So as long as the battery is charged, you can play it anywhere. Well, maybe not if you're a soldier in the middle of battlefield, or involved in a court case, or attending a funeral, but you get the idea. This didn't stop a whole range of companies making accessories so your portable console could be, more portable? These lazy neck devices, as tested by YouTube Stevie7, are all well and good, but serve no real purpose. The whole point of the Switch is that you can play it wherever, so we need to know why this is even a thing. Steel Battalion controller. Here's a little tip for any aspiring game developers out there. If you're making a game specifically for a console, it might be a good idea to keep in mind the system's controllers. You could come up with something completely brilliant, but if a gamer has to get new stuff specifically to play a game how it's meant to be played, you haven't done as well as you could have done. Xbox players in 2002 who heard about Steel Battalion were very excited. This was an awesome-looking shoot-'em-up from Capcom, a company with one of the best track records of any developer, which put you in control of a bipedal walking tank. Talk about awesome! Prospective players had one problem, though. You couldn't really play it with a regular Xbox controller. No, you had to get a very expensive accessory. Steel Battalion's controller is ridiculous. It is absolutely massive and features 2 joysticks, a whole range of buttons, and some foot pedals rolled in. To be fair, it made playing the game an experience unlike anything else, and it was made to the highest standards. Its real problem was that you only ever used it for 2 games, which left it catching dust and looking like a weird guitar pedal board the rest of the time. This was $200 you were never going to see again. Switch dust cover. There's a piece of advice which holds true in gaming and in life. If in doubt, read the flipping manual. Seriously, these things are included with products for a reason. Not everyone automatically knows how to make something work, so the little book with the instructions and the diagrams is there to help you get the best out of a thing and not break it. Even though games usually have a couple of annoying tutorial levels to get you used to them these days, it wasn't always the case, so this was doubly important. Nevertheless, there are cases of people making terrible mistakes because they didn't read the warning signs. That's something which is certainly true about this next entry. Now, we all love the Nintendo Switch. It's awesome, it's portable, and it's loads of fun. But there's one thing we'd like to fix about it. It's a bit of a dust trap. So when this dust cover was launched, we were all for it. It's well made, it looks nice, and it keeps your home and your Switch clean. It does warn you, though, not to have it on your Switch while it's turned on because it'll overheat. Unfortunately, some people didn't read the flipping manual, and that's what happened. Moral of the story, always read the manual. Otherwise, it's your fault when things go wrong. Fragmaster. Back in the halcyon days of the late 90s, PC gaming seemed to be all about one thing: Quake. This was the defining first-person shooter of the era and has gone on to become one of the most important games of all time. Before Quake, FPS was a frustrating affair with the potential to be brilliant. After Quake, it became one of the biggest genres in gaming. Trust us, there will be no rudeness about Quake in our house, not if you want milk and cookies. We've said all that because it saddens us to tell you about one of the weirdest, most awkward accessories ever. When the third game in the series, Quake 3 Arena, came out, we loved nothing more than to rush around fragging everyone. Sure, the mouse and keyboard controls were challenging, but it was all part of the fun. What no one wanted was a terrible looking thing to make it easier. The Fragmaster intended to do this, and to be fair, it simplified things. Unfortunately, makers Thrustmaster's plan, a futuristic driving wheel, somehow got lost in development and got turned into a misshapen toilet seat. Just look at it. Do you really want to put your hands on that thing? Wouldn't you rather just play the game as it was meant to be played? Yeah, thought so. SPEEDLINK V-Grip. Just because something ends up being bad doesn't automatically mean the idea behind it is awful. If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, then this next accessory is in for some serious infernal love. If you've got larger hands, the Nintendo Switch's Joy-Cons can be a little bit fiddly. While you can play with them perfectly normally, you might end up putting your hands in a weird claw-like position in order to get the desired effect. So when Dutch company SPEEDLINK came up with a special grip holder, it looked like it would be a blessing for the bigger player. Yes, you can keep your hands in a more neutral position. This is a good thing. It's pretty much the only good thing about this accessory though. For a start, it makes your Switch look really weird. Until some enterprising developer makes Accordion Hero, you don't want your console to look like an accordion. Secondly, it messes up the controls. Because it angles your Joy-Cons, if you press left, you actually move down and to the left. And if you press right, you go up and to the right. Not good. To cap it all off, if you got average or even below average size hands, this thing ends up being a bit too uncomfortable. Good idea, but poor execution. KONAMI LASERSCOPE. The idea of playing shooting games using a controller which looked like a weapon has been a thing ever since the earliest arcade games. It's moved over into consoles too with varying degrees of success. Let's put it this way. For every Nintendo Zapper, there's always a Super Nintendo Super Scope. Yeah, you get where we're coming from. Either way, you grab your accessory, take aim at the screen, and pull the trigger. It's all simple, but like so many things, you can trust someone to take it too far. In the 1990s though, you wouldn't have thought the people who would take it to a level it didn't need to go to would be Konami. The people behind Gradius, Metal Gear, and Pro Evolution Soccer tried to get into the light gun market and it didn't go well. The KONAMI LaserScope is a bad idea, done terribly. If you had an NES and a Zapper, this was supposed to be an alternative. First of all, you wore it. It looked ridiculous. Then you aimed the laser pointer, which to be fair was quite cool, before you shouted, "Fire!" Yes, you're dealing with voice-activated software. It sounded daft, it didn't work, it was absolutely dreadful, and no, you couldn't get cheats by saying up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start. What a disappointment. NES SPEEDBOARD. We'll also be talking about accessories, which didn't quite work for some reason. In this list, there are going to be a lot of ones which were meant to be used for Nintendo consoles. This isn't a diss of Nintendo at all. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. If you're the biggest company around, you can be sure people are going to want to get themselves a slice of your pie. Tasty gaming pie. Anyway, there can be absolutely no excuse for this next accessory. The Nintendo SPEEDBOARD pretty much defines an accessory which didn't go far enough. The SPEEDBOARD was meant for NES players. The Nintendo Entertainment System revolutionized and saved video game consoles, and it was the biggest thing back in the day. People loved to play it, even if the games were Nintendo hard. The Nintendo SPEEDBOARD, licensed by Nintendo and designed by Pressman, aims to get around that by, holding your gamepad, and that's it. Seriously, this accessory only does one thing. You would go to a shop and hand over your money for this one thing. You could have bought a turbo controller for the same money, but you decided to get this instead. If it had a turbo option, it would work brilliantly. But as it stands, it's baffling. Switch voice chat headset. Technology marches on like a technological thing which marches. Did that make sense? Anyway, back in the day, the biggest discussion you'd have while playing a multiplayer game was with your friend who was sitting next to you. Then PC gaming became a thing and there'd be an online chat function so you could judge each other's typos. Now we have online voice chat so you can put on a headset and swear at strangers. We truly live in wonderful times. The Nintendo Switch is an absolutely magnificent console. It's redefined how we play games, and it's managed to be a regular system and a portable one at the same time. One thing it lacks, though, is support for Bluetooth audio devices. This means voice chat is harder than it is on other consoles. Every problem, though, has a solution, and Japanese company Hori thought it had one. Linking up with the game Splatoon 2, Hori's voice chat headset is, a bit interesting. It overcomes the lack of wireless support with wires. Lots of wires. It's like an international festival of wires, and you're invited. You have to hook up your headphones to an adapter, which you connect to your cell phone and your Switch, and in the meantime, you have to avoid throttling someone. It's a good idea, but it should have been left as a wired adapter to a Bluetooth-ready device. SEGA ACTIVATOR. When Nintendo launched the Wii back in 2006, it was literally a game changer. You didn't have to sit around playing video games anymore. Now, you could jump, kick, and move around thanks to the way the Wiimote worked. This was amazing and opened up gaming to people who otherwise wouldn't have played. Somewhere, though, some games developers saw the massive success the Wii had and surely wept for what might have been. The Wii may have been the first time motion control was used successfully in games, but it wasn't the first time someone had tried to make games playable without having to press buttons or twiddle a joystick. In fact, the pioneers were Nintendo's old rivals, Sega. When the Genesis was the only thing stopping the Super Nintendo from gaming world domination, Sega had a plan. What if you could play a game by movement alone? That would show Nintendo a thing or two. Thus, the SEGA Activator was born. There was only one problem with the Activator. The octagon you placed on the floor and moved around in, yeah, it didn't really work. Rather than having free reign to do things, you had to wave your hands roughly where a button would be and hope for the best. This left gamers disappointed and Sega with lots of problems. If it had worked properly, it would have been revolutionary. And there you have it. What's your favorite accessory which went too far? Did we leave any good ones out? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget, subscribe to The Gamer for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.